Hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here to join me as I share my journey of discovery. My journey started with a why. Why do we celebrate Christmas the way we do? Why do we do baptisms the way we do? And why are confirmation ceremonies performed in a certain way? And this is the one that started me on a fascinating journey. Why does a marriage happen the way it does? The engagement, the wedding dress, the ceremony, and so on. I found myself asking these questions, trying to understand what the Bible actually says versus what we've perhaps inherited through man made customs and traditions. I was surprised to find that the Bible didn't actually describe the marriage process at all. So, since the Old Testament was linked to the Jewish people, I went further back into something called the Talmud, which is like a collection of ancient Jewish practices. And that is when everything started to click. As I was reading about the steps of this ancient Jewish wedding, suddenly familiar phrases from the Bible started jumping off the page. The bride of Christ, Jesus being called the bridegroom, and this incredible mysterious event called the marriage of the Lamb. It was like finding a key that unlocked a hidden room. Now, this journey isn't about my opinion. It's about going back to the God-breathed source, the Bible, to see what He has to teach us. What I uncovered was a beautiful, intentional love story woven through the entire Bible, hidden in plain sight within these wedding customs. So today, I want to share what I found. Let's explore this divine love story together. So, what's the point of all of this? Why is understanding this ancient wedding tradition so important? Well, because by understanding the symbolism, we can appreciate the incredible depth of God's love for His people. We see a very beautiful, coherent plan that runs through the entire Bible, a plan that defeats evil, restores His creation, and brings us back into eternal and intimate communion with Him. It's a story not just about overcoming sin, but about the unbreakable bond that God has always desired to have with us. Now, before we go any further, I want to set the stage for how we will explore this. The Bible is a profound and ancient text. For thousands of years, brilliant and sincere people have studied it and sometimes come to different conclusions on certain topics. I want to be clear, I'm not a pastor or trained theologian. I'm simply a fellow seeker sharing what I found when I went looking for the truth myself. So, as I share what made the most sense to me, I want to invite you to do the same. Think of our time together as a mile wide, inch deep overview. I can't possibly cover everything, and I don't expect you to remember every detail. My real hope is that you listen with your heart and let this inspire you. Please don't take my word for it. If a topic sparks your interest, let it be the start of your own journey. Go and research it for yourself. The Bible is an amazing book with layers upon layers of truth, and the greatest treasures are found by those who seek them. All right, with the stage set, our journey can begin. And the very first thing we need to do is adjust our thinking about one fundamental concept: time. For you and me, time is a constant. We live by the clock, by the calendar. We see it passing moment by moment, like sand slipping through an hourglass. Our entire lives are measured by it. But the Bible tells us that God, the creator of time itself, exists outside of it. His perspective is eternal, and it's completely different to ours. The Apostle Peter gave us a key to understanding this in his second letter, chapter 3, verse 8. He writes, "But do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day." Now, this isn't just a piece of poetic language, it's a foundational principle. It helps us understand that what feels like an eternity to us, 1,000 years of human history with empires rising and falling, is like a single passing day to God. Hold on to this idea, this concept of a divine day being like 1,000 years. It is the key that helps us unlock the grand timeline of God's redemptive plan. And as we're about to see, this key fits the lock perfectly, starting right back at the dawn of creation. So we have this incredible key from 2 Peter. With the Lord, 1 day is 1,000 years. The question is, where does this key fit? To answer that, we must go back to the very first page of the Bible, the blueprint of creation itself. We all know the story of the 7 days of creation in Genesis, but let's look at it not just as a record of the past, but as a potential pattern for the future. On day 1, God separates light from darkness, introducing the concept of good and evil. On day 2, he separates the waters, a theme that will reappear dramatically with the flood. On day 3, the land brings forth seeds and vegetation, a picture of Abram's seed and the promised land. On day 4, God creates the sun, the moon, and stars, and 4,000 years later, the true light of the world, the Son, Jesus, would arrive. On day 5, he fills the waters with fish and the air with birds, and later Jesus would call his disciples to be fishers of men. On day 6, God creates man in his image, commanding him to be fruitful and multiply, and the 6th millennium has seen an exponential explosion of humanity. And finally, on day 7, God rests, a day of completion and peace. Do you see the pattern? Now let's apply our key. What if those 7 literal days of creation were also a prophetic blueprint for the 7,000 years of human history? 1 day equals 1,000 years. 7 days, a 7,000-year plan for humanity on this earth, followed by eternity. So let's place ourselves on this divine map. The single most important event in history, the crucifixion of Jesus, took place around the 4,000-year mark, so 30 to 32 AD. And that means that you and I, are right now living in the year 2025, at the very end of the 6th day. We are approaching the beginning of the 7,000-year mark. Now hold on to that thought. We're going to come back to why our position on this timeline is so critically important later on. Now, looking at this timeline, theologians have seen distinct ages or dispensations. Think of them as different chapters in God's story with humanity, where He interacted with us under a specific set of rules. It began with innocence in the garden, a simple test that was failed. This was followed by the age of conscience, which ended in the corruption and brought the flood. Then came human government, which failed in pride at the Tower of Babel. So God established an age of promise with Abram, which led to the giving of the law to Moses. But the law served a very crucial purpose. It proved that humanity on its own is incapable of perfect obedience. And that brings us to the age we live in now, the church age, or the age of grace. The Bible tells us there is one more earthly age to come, the millennial kingdom, a 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth. It is all part of what Paul describes in Ephesians as a plan for the fullness of time, to unite all things in Him, things in heaven and things on earth.